While Max Verstappen's low-speed antics in Barcelona stole the headlines, turning the Spanish Grand Prix into a meme factory with the world's most expensive game of bumper cars, a much bigger story was quietly unfolding behind the chaos. Yes, Verstappen's brush with controversy kept the cameras rolling, but what about the rest of the grid? 19 drivers fought tooth and nail through the scorching heat, some clawing for survival, others making silent statements that could reshape the F1 landscape, and none more so than Yuki Tsunoda. Christian Horner has made it crystal clear that seat isn't locked down just because the ink is dry. In a bombshell admission, Horner hinted that Tsunoda's place in the senior team isn't guaranteed if his performance dips. In other words, the countdown has already started, and every lap he drives between now and the season's end is an audition. While the world debated Verstappen's penalty and Red Bull's team orders, the real pressure might be sitting on Tsunoda's shoulders. He may have been promoted, but the spotlight is unforgiving, and Red Bull has never been known for second chances. One bad weekend, one misstep, and the momentum could shift faster than a DRS overtake on the main straight. Tsunoda's Q1 elimination in Barcelona wasn't just disappointing, it was mystifying. "I just don't have any idea why I am slow," he admitted post-session, his voice carrying the weight of confusion and frustration. No mistakes, no traffic, no technical gremlins, just raw pace missing in action. He was over half a second off his teammate, and after a clean lap with no visible errors, that gap felt like a warning siren inside the Red Bull garage. But Tsunoda's entire journey into that second Red Bull seat has been anything but smooth. Last December, he was passed over for the promotion, losing out to Liam Lawson in a tightly contested internal vote. Yet, in a dramatic twist, Red Bull reversed course just 2 races into 2025, ditching Lawson and handing the keys to Tsunoda. On paper, it looked like redemption. In reality, it's starting to feel like a high-stakes trial by fire, because despite some statistical improvements, Tsunoda is still trailing Verstappen by an average of 0.8 seconds in qualifying, a chasm in F1 terms. For comparison, even Lewis Hamilton, currently looking lost in red overalls at Ferrari, is just 0.2 seconds adrift of Charles Leclerc. That's the difference between struggling and sinking. So while the world fixated on Verstappen's latest controversy, the real storyline might be Yuki Tsunoda's fight for survival. He got the promotion, he got the car, but now the question is brutal. Can he keep the seat, or is Red Bull already thinking about its next U-turn? Now, in his 5th season in Formula 1, Yuki Tsunoda was supposed to be Red Bull's solution, not another problem, but so far, that hope is hanging by a thread. With Tsunoda now openly admitting he has no idea why he's so far off the pace, and sitting a massive 0.8 seconds adrift of Verstappen in qualifying, that second seat is beginning to look cursed. The irony? Sergio Perez, ridiculed and written off throughout a brutal 2024 campaign, is likely watching all this unfold with a quiet smile, because for all his faults, Checo at least brought home wins and podiums. Tsunoda, meanwhile, can't even escape Q1 in Barcelona. Surely no one could be this far off Verstappen's pace, right? That was the sentiment echoing through the paddock as pundits picked apart Sergio Perez's underwhelming 2024 campaign. Headlines all but begged Red Bull to look elsewhere. Now, that very spotlight has shifted to Yuki Tsunoda, and while his average qualifying gap to Verstappen is about 2/10 better than Perez's was, that's hardly a headline achievement. Since stepping into the Red Bull seat, Tsunoda's highlights have been 2 10th place finishes and a 9th in Bahrain. Not exactly the level of support Max Verstappen needs in his quest for a 5th consecutive title. Naturally, questions have emerged about whether Red Bull is already eyeing yet another replacement. Team principal Christian Horner responded, or rather avoided responding, in trademark fashion. Quoting Flavio Briatore, Horner quipped, "I don't want to answer that," dodging commitment like a seasoned politician. "It's early days," he added, highlighting Yuki's Q3 appearances and point scoring from the pit lane, small victories dressed up as progress. But behind Horner's media-friendly smokescreen, the real pressure cooker is heating up. Dr. Helmut Marko, never one to hold back, has already labelled Tsunoda a crybaby, and while Tsunoda fights to prove he belongs, Marko has been loudly championing Isaac Hadjar, Red Bull's latest prodigy, week after week. In Spain, Isaac Hadjar once again broke into Q3, a feat that's becoming less of a surprise and more of a habit. Among drivers outside the sport's powerhouse top 4 teams, only Alex Albon has more appearances in the final segment of qualifying than the young Racing Bulls driver. With 5 points finishes from 9 races and a stunning 9th place in the Drivers' Championship, just behind Albon, Hadjar's meteoric rise is turning heads, especially within Red Bull's inner circle. He's also soundly outperforming his more experienced teammate Liam Lawson. And after Monaco, it wasn't just his results doing the talking. Dr. Helmut Marko, never one to mince words, couldn't hold back his admiration. "Hajar is the big surprise for me," he told Kronen Zeitung. "He delivers his performance calmly, like it's second nature, all while learning circuits for the first time." Marko's enthusiasm didn't stop at praise. He made it clear that Hajar isn't just exceeding expectations, he's becoming a genuine threat to Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull seat. With Tsunoda's main sponsor reportedly shifting allegiance to Aston Martin for 2026, the Japanese driver's future suddenly looks shaky. "Yuki already feels the heat on his neck," Marko stated bluntly. "He loses ground as soon as pressure mounts." Helmut Marko's influence within the Red Bull ecosystem has always been divisive, but no one questions the power behind his words. When he dismisses a driver, it echoes louder than a team statement. And when he praises one, it often signals a shift in the pecking order. His latest comments about Yuki Tsunoda weren't just critical, they were damning. Contrast that with the almost poetic admiration Marko showers on Isaac Hajar, calling the rookie's performances natural and impressive given his lack of circuit experience. In a system as ruthlessly meritocratic as Red Bull's, that kind of praise is currency. And right now, Hajar is cashing in. But this is where Red Bull's track record casts a long shadow, because Hajar might look like the next golden boy, but so did Pierre Gasly, so did Alex Albon. Both were fast, hungry, and full of promise, until they were thrown into the Verstappen vortex and spat out with confidence shattered. Even Sergio Perez, an experienced campaigner, eventually crumbled under the weight of expectation. So while Hajar is turning heads now, there's no guarantee he'll thrive if parachuted into Red Bull mid-season or in 2026. Talent is one thing, surviving the furnace of Milton Keynes is another. If Red Bull hasn't truly changed the environment around that second seat, they risk turning another young talent into another case study in how not to develop a driver. And that's the unspoken danger. If they rush to replace Tsunoda with Hajar without addressing the culture that's broken so many before him, they might not just lose one driver, they could lose two, all of which makes Christian Horner's coy refusal to comment on Tsunoda's status sound far less diplomatic and far more strategic. The silence is deafening, and at Milton Keynes it might signal more than just patience. A driver change could be brewing behind closed doors, and if Hajar continues at this pace, the reshuffle could arrive long before season's end. It's also worth asking, is Tsunoda really underperforming, or is Verstappen's dominance simply distorting the picture? Max is operating at such a high level that even decent performances can appear inadequate by comparison. It happened to Gasly, it happened to Albon, and even Perez, a race winner, couldn't escape the shadow. Tsunoda might not be delivering miracles, but he's not alone in struggling. At some point, Red Bull has to stop measuring drivers against Verstappen's perfection and start building a support system that actually lets them grow. Otherwise, no one will ever be good enough, and the cycle will never end. Do you think Yuki Tsunoda is genuinely underperforming, or is Red Bull setting him up to fail like they've done with so many before him? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.